think the same way the Stoics got their recognition through Ryan Holiday, we, as the younger generation, should pay homage and recognition to Ryan Holiday. And I have to say that reading his books has really helped me understand kind of more about not just Stoicism, but more about, I guess, life and understanding how to carry yourself, how to act. Not that it per se means you should act this way. I myself am imperfect, as is anyone, but I believe self-reflection is a beautiful, beautiful component of life. And self-reflection is such a useful tool in anything. You know, if you're not reflecting to continuously improve yourself, then it's like, what are you doing? You're stagnant. You're not really moving forward. You're kind of in the same place. And I think just as you can self-reflect when you perform poorly, you can self-reflect when you perform adequately, the same way you could self-reflect when you perform great. And so I want to kind of take this time, and this is going to be the first episode where we talk about Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday, and going through chapter by chapter, and just kind of giving my thoughts on things. So the book itself, and yeah, I apologize, I don't have the Chris Williamson set up yet, so I kind of have this on my other side of the screen here. The book itself begins with an interesting monologue. The introduction is quite interesting. The first paragraph I'll read really quickly. Maybe you're young and brimming with ambition. Maybe you're young and you're struggling. Maybe you've made that first couple million, signed your first deal, been selected to some elite group, or maybe you've already accomplished enough to last a lifetime. Maybe you're stunned to find out how empty it is at the top. Maybe you're charged with leading others through a crisis. Maybe you just got fired. Maybe you just hit rock bottom. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, your worst enemy already lives inside you, your ego. So the book itself begins very, very impactful, very effective. And I just want to preface before anything the type of ego that Ryan chooses to reflect on and kind of chooses to hyper focus on when he writes this book. And this is how it goes. He goes, the ego we see most commonly goes by more casual definition, an unhealthy belief in our own importance, arrogance, self-centered ambition. That's the definition this book will use. It's that petulant child inside every person, the one that chooses getting his way over anything or anyone else. The need to be better than, more than, recognized for, far past any reasonable utility. That's ego. So when he prefaces that, he moves on to the first chapter. And the one thing I also really, really enjoy about this book is the anecdotes he uses. They're incredible. They're not only modern, where sometimes he references CEOs, or sometimes he references some very interesting people, but he also references a lot of interesting historical figures, and that's something that really interests me. And so, going into the first chapter, let's go straight into it. It's called Talk, 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 and it starts with a quote from Lao Tzu: "Those who know do not speak; those who speak do not know." And I just want to read some very interesting quotes here that spoke to me. So the entire premise of this chapter alone is talk is cheap and it gets you nowhere. And obviously that's, for a lot of people who do basic self-reflection, it's an easy insight to understand. But it also reminds me of something that, again, after watching a lot of Chris Williamson, it's kind of, I've also understood is, there's also a big quote that he always mentions, which is talking about the thing is not doing the thing. Listening to people who've done the thing is not doing the thing. Having negative thoughts about doing the thing is not doing the thing. And it goes on and on about how these different ways of approaching the thing is not doing the thing. And at the end of the day, it is doing that gets shit done. And again, a couple quotes here that really spoke true. And one of them is a modern one. It's for social media. So here we go. The empty text box. What's on your mind? Facebook asks. Compose a new tweet. Twitter beckons. Tumblr, LinkedIn, our inbox, our iPhones, the comment section on the bottom of the article you just read. Blank spaces, begging to be filled in with thoughts, with photos, with stories, with what we're going to do, with what things should or could be like, what we hope will happen. Soliciting talk. And that's part of the reason why I personally, I guess, deactivated Instagram for a little bit. It seems like no matter what you do, no matter, whatever new life hack you try, no matter what sort of, I guess, like time limit you put on yourself, it doesn't matter. We're all drawn to these flashing lights of, this is what I'm doing, this is what you should be doing, this is what worked for me, this isn't what worked for me. And for some people that works, for some people that's great motivation. I myself have a lot of things that I've tried to implement in my own life from watching a lot of these videos on social media, and I've tried constantly writing in these empty text boxes, like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. But at the end of the day, it's like the quote mentions, it talks about what we're going to do, what we should do, but it doesn't address the root cause at all. And I think I'm gonna also try and connect another book here, which is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And that first chapter of that book actually references the idea of when you hyperfixate on doing things, you actually get more caught up in the negative when you don't do it. Thus, you fail to do it. You start giving what they say. You start giving a fuck, because as soon as you start failing at continuously trying to do the thing, it gets in your head. As with the common man, it affects your self-esteem. It affects your self-confidence. And to allude it back to this, it's the same concept. We get so caught up with who we are if it doesn't work, who we are, when we're constantly caring way too much about these things of, oh, if it doesn't work, what if I try? Oh, let me plan it out. Let me write it on a whiteboard. And at the end of the day, none of it addresses the root, which is tackling the issue head first. And it also mentions that, the performances that are shown on these social media sites are all positive. None of it is transparent, to say the least. And that's another reason why I got off these sites. I was like, man, there's nobody who's transparent. There's nobody who truly shows the real reality, the real side of things. And so, that's also kind of why I wanted to start this whole thing, was just also showing myself nowhere near where I want to be, and nowhere near, the success I want to achieve. But at the end of the day, it's a work in progress. I think that's what everyone is. I think, with every venture, there's a first attempt, right? So this is my first attempt at this. It is, honestly, it feels embarrassing. It feels nerve-wracking. It feels really, I guess, what my generation calls cringe, but it's uncomfortable, and so I feel like I need to do it. And moving on, there's another point I want to bring up in this is talk is cheap, which is the other point. So he goes on to say, in actuality, silence is strength, particularly early on in any journey. As the philosopher Kierkegaard said, butchered that name, Kierkegaard warned, mere gossip anticipates real talk, and to express what is still in thought weakens action by forestalling it. And that's what is so insidious about talk. Anyone could talk about himself or herself. Even a child knows how to gossip and chatter. Most people are decent at hype and sales. So what is scarce and rare? Silence. the ability to deliberately keep yourself out of the conversation and subsist without its validation. Silence is the respite of the confident and the strong. And that's true. That is true. I mean, reflecting on my own life, you just think about it, right? I mean, it's... I mean, anyone you ask around my personal life will always say I'm a pretty loud, outspoken person, and it's a quality I've been trying to work on because, I think one of my strong points is connecting with people, and one of my strongest attributes is networking and making friends. And I think at the same time I kind of get lost. I get lost in those weeds a little bit sometimes, and again, like the quote says, the ability to deliberately keep yourself out of the conversation and subsist without its validation. That's something I suffer with. So that is something I suffer from, and not all the time, but I do notice it, and I try to actively catch myself, and sometimes I catch myself too late after the fact. And so I do see that a lot, and I think that honestly is the reason why I've become so much more self-aware with other people's conversations. As I notice when other people speak a lot, not just about the topic that we're discussing, but about themselves too, and it's very interesting. And I think being in finance, you see that a lot. I've had quite a few coffee chats at this point with other students who attended my college at UCLA, and everyone's young, everyone's out trying to make it, and so I don't take these conversations personally when a student interjects in what I'm saying, or is too loud in how they speak, or not considerate of my time, or doesn't consider my words, which again, I don't really have anything to offer at this point, right? But I see it, and I think it's our duty to call it out, because even though finance is a very gung-ho industry and very, very isolated and can be at times selfish, I think it's important to call peers out and improve one another on it. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent, but he goes on to say, Sherman had a good rule he tried to observe: never give reasons for you what think or do until you must. Maybe after a while a better reason will pop into your head. The baseball and football great Bo Jackson decided he had two things he wanted to accomplish as an athlete at Auburn. He would win the Heisman Trophy and be taken first in the NFL draft. Do you know who he told? Nobody but his girlfriend. And I guess this is where the whole idea of don't tell anybody about your goals is. And if I had to ask Ryan Holiday any question about this specific chapter, it would probably be this, right? You always hear it, right? I mean, the greats always talk about visualization. Visualization. They talk about being outspoken about your goals, your dreams, and that's how they end up where they are, right? But at the same time, the correct way sometimes is to not speak about it. And I'm working on things right now that I choose to not speak about with my peers, my close friends, my family, and that's my personal choice and something that I'm continuing to do. And I think part of not talking about it allows you to become comfortable with how scary it is. Because I think as human beings, we flock to others' opinions when we're insecure about something, when we're not sure about something, when we're looking for approval, for validation. And I think at times it backfires. Because, like, going back to the original Chris Williamson quote of talking about the thing is not doing the thing, it gives us that false sense of validation that, we're talking about it, we're getting it done. And that's part of the reason why I've kept a lot of things to myself as of late. And, I know I've at this point basically plagiarized this book, but, again, I think it's just great material. And Ryan, I hope you're watching this. If not, one day you will be. He does mention, talk depletes us. talking and doing fight for the same resources. And this is quite powerful. I mean, that sentence alone is powerful. And we don't think about it. We don't think about this at all. The mental capacity as humans that we have, it's limited. It's not unlimited. I think throughout the last couple of years, I've been working on and done a lot better at compartmentalizing and separating my mental energy and choosing what to focus on in my life, you know. And it doesn't have to just be with work, it could just be with personal life, right? If, you know, there's trauma in one area, I, you know, bring that down. If there's work that needs to be done somewhere else, push it up, you know. And he goes on to say, research shows that while goal visualization is important, after a certain point our mind begins to confuse it with actual progress. And this goes back to my, you know, my original question I'd have for Ryan, right? Same goes for verbalization. Even talking aloud to ourselves while we work through difficult problems has been shown to significantly decrease insight and breakthroughs. After spending so much time thinking, explaining, and talking about a task, we start to feel that we've gotten closer to achieving it. Or worse, when things get tough, we feel we could toss the whole project aside because we've given it our best try, although of course we haven't. The more difficult the task, the more uncertain the outcome, the more costly talk will be, and the farther we run from actual accountability. And this kind of answers my question, but it also doesn't, you know, because I think even though this is a beautiful way of saying that, put your head down and work and confront the issue face on without seeking the validation from others and mentally draining yourself. I think there is a certain benefit in mentioning your goals out loud. I do think so. I don't think it's completely 100% correct. But I think what Ryan's trying to say, and again, I mean, his first sentence, I may have just butchered it completely, the interpretation, because I said it was about mental resources. No, it's about, I guess, the chemical compound that is released when we think about these goals is the same feeling as doing them. So, just want to preface that. And yeah, the more difficult it is, the more we feel the need to run from accountability, which is quite interesting, right? You know, I feel that in my own life. I really do. I feel like I come home from work and there's projects that need to be done. It's my own personal projects. I mean, recording this video has taken courage. I say courage. It's not even courage. It's taken effort. That's all it is effort. Right? Like, I'm speaking into a camera, but it was easy as this, and I've been running from accountability for this for weeks now, and to actually do it is quite weird, really quite weird. And honestly, I feel like I have nothing to add. If I'm being quite honest, I'm gonna be a little bit vulnerable here. I will say I feel like I have nothing new to add to this platform, to my channel, and I think just reading these books out loud is hopefully just a start, you know, to creating my own ideas and thoughts, and hopefully I can get away from reading from these books and actually talking about them and promoting the idea of stoicism. But yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I do not feel great about it, but I have to take accountability for my work and try and start somewhere. So that's what we're doing. And he does end the chapter here with a great line. Doing great work is struggle. It's draining, it's demoralizing, it's frightening. Not always, but it can feel that way when we're deep in the middle of it. We talk to fill the void and the uncertainty. Void, Marlon Brando, a quiet actor if there ever was one, once said, it's terrifying to most people. It is almost as if we are assaulted by silence or confronted by it, particularly if we've allowed our ego to lie to us over the years. Man, I mean, if there's a quote you least expect from an actor who's great, it's definitely this one, right? And it even shows you, right? Doesn't matter where you come from. It's these, what background you're in. It could be acting, it could be finance, it could be tech. These all apply, right? So, and it shows, right? This is damaging for a couple reasons. The best work comes from, I guess, wrestling and fighting with the void instead of trying to push it to go away. And it begs the question, do we speak the respite of talk, or do we choose to face the struggle head on? That's what this chapter, at the end of the day, boils down to. A voice of a generation, as Ryan Holiday here says, doesn't call itself that. When you think about it, you realize just how little these voices seem to talk. It's a song, it's a speech, it's a book. The volume of work may be light, but what's inside is concentrated and impactful. And it's absolutely true. I mean, the greatest works of our time weren't people who sat, talked about it. They're in forms of art, in forms of great work, in forms of great ways of communicating to the world these messages. And so that's proof right there, right? And so he finishes off with saying the only relationship between work and chatter is that one kills the other. Let the others slap each other on the back while you're back in the lab or the gym or pounding the pavement. Plug that hole, that one, right in the middle of your face. That can drain you of your vital life force. Watch what happens. Watch how much better you get. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of feel directly called out here, talking about this, right? Like, I'm the one talking about it, and I'm being told to shut up. But no, I do think that it's true. It's the brutal truth. I mean, one thing I thought to myself, and I'm sure someone's already thought of this quote, because at the end of the day, I think a lot of stuff is difficult. It's difficult to be original. I think a lot of philosophy and interesting things about life are regurgitated because greatness is passed down through generations. And one thing I've thought about is talk is cheap. Goals are inexpensive. Action has a cost, a high cost, and legacy is priceless. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I want to leave with for this first chapter. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything that's been given from my audience. Listen, at the end of the day, my goal with this is to create a community. Whether you're trying to read more about Stoicism, more about Ryan Holiday, it doesn't have to be, it's not Ryan Holiday specific. Ryan, I love you, but it's not Ryan Holiday specific. I just really like his material. I like his work. It's really inspiring. And if this helped even just at least one person, I think I've done my job, because at the end of the day, it's part of the reason why I feel like I was put on this earth, is to kind of like build communities and help people, So yeah, appreciate everyone's time, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.